This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas.
Good morning, true seekers and true crime junkies. Welcome back to another episode of Hit the Road, Jack, Finding the Zodiac. I want to at least bring in right now Nolan Del Campo.
Good morning.
Good morning. And Harriette Sucher.
Good morning.
I wanted to start actually today. You guys are going to have to excuse my voice. I've been getting over a head cold for the last couple weeks. Hopefully I make it through this without losing it. Terry Batcher actually had some extremely good points that he made in regards to last week's episode, and some of them pointed at all of us. So I thought I'd discuss those with us real quick before we get started. He said he was catching up on episode 111, the person in that picture. So we looked at a picture last week that was on the Black Dahlia documentary, and we discussed whether or not the YouTuber had believed it was Jack Terrence. And I said that I didn't believe it was. He stated that the person in that picture was identified specifically. As I recall, he was E. Short's boyfriend at the time, and his name escapes me, but I can find it for you. He said, suddenly the name Fickling comes to mind. Do you remember that name? Fickerling, Black Dahlia's boyfriend. So, well, it made sense. That's why I had remembered actually seeing that face before, is because that I believe he's correct. I believe Terry is correct in the fact that was a man named Fickling or Fickerling or something. I'd have to go back in the presentation to check it out, but I just got this last night. So anyways, he said he went on to talk about, because we've been discussing Gaikowski. He said when all of the other pet suspects failed to fit the bill, the TV camp dredged up the name Gaikowski. Remember that folk described the perp as being of Welsh descent, not Polish. So you guys know, do you know what I'm referring to?
Well, it would explain the color of the hair.
Right. The red hair, the reddish brown hair. So basically, Folk was the police officer in the Presidio who witnessed and spoke to the Zodiac that night as he escaped, because he said that he saw a man running around the corner with a gun, and the cops sped after that person. But then he turned around, the Zodiac turned around and wrote a letter stating they had me, basically. I was there. I spoke to them. I told them to go look for this guy running with a gun. So he admittedly stated he had spoken to the police officer. The police officer is the one that gave the original composite sketch in the San Francisco Presidio, or the killing of Paul Stein. So the fact that that officer said that he was of Welsh descent, not Polish descent, kind of kicks the whole idea that Gaikowski is our guy, since he's Polish, not of a Welsh background. So he then corrected me.
I was going to say, one of the reasons the cops didn't detain the guy, because the first APB that went out listed the suspect as a black man.
Correct. So yeah,
for whatever reason, that's wild. That's crazy.
That's very wild. There's a big difference between black and white male, right? I mean, I think that was almost kind of a setup in itself. Anyways,
yes.
He went on to correct me and tell me that a 30-30 is a high-powered rifle, not a shotgun. What he's referring to is me stating that Stephen Dewhurst had written in his book that Danny Reynolds had been busted trying to rob a liquor store with Jack's 30-30. I called it a shotgun, when it turns out it's a high-power rifle. He said special ammunition might have been fabricated to fire shot or pellets, but highly unlikely. A Model 94 Winchester 30-30 rifle was a very popular weapon in those days. He also said that Nolan had a good point at 12 minutes and 40 seconds into the a podcast. But I don't,
Details.
yeah. You give me the details. Don't tell me 1240. So I'm not sure what he really liked about what you said, but you can go back to 1240 in last week's episode and see what you said that he thought was very astute.
Okay.
He goes on to say, punched out triggers for him IBM computer punch card files. I think PAL, capitalized obviously as an acronym, is another computer reference from Secret PAL. He says reference to Harriette and roundabout. In fact, from an aerial view, there was and may still be a perfectly round depression that fills with snow. The cops never made it clear if that was where the evidence of the human remains were discovered, but later mysteriously removed. An aerial view is the key thing to making note, he says, in his honest opinion, and that's in regards to the roundabout that you talked about, Harriette.
He's right. The eyes of Texas. You have no idea what I'm talking about, but he's right. And then that we were the only ones spying on us, as well as Russia. So the aerial view, the stuff that I'm seeing, yes, he's correct. Actually, amazing.
Yeah. He says, bear in mind that the hole punch is perfectly round, and IBM hole punch is rectangular. Another keyword is incline. The artifact that I'm talking about is on the base of the incline of a certain hill. Hey, I tipped the cops to look there several years ago, and shortly afterwards, there was some detectable movements and updates that occurred. I don't know what, but that's, again, I guess, another one of those things. So basically, he says another historical Zodiac Jack keyword is the word secret, as in secret pal, secret witness, secret Santa from the JBR case, and perhaps secret friend too. Police spelled incorrectly on the Ramsey murder note as well. So those were kind of some of his add-ins. I like to get him involved when there's computer stuff involved, because he's more the technical IT guy than me, or I assume any of the rest of us, since we can't maneuver our own earpods.
Yeah. I hire people to do that for me.
Exactly. I tell Dean, the one that owns Talk 4 TV, I tell him all the time, I stay in my lane. I do not try to do things that I'm unfamiliar with. I feel like I'm going to change something inevitably that will damage my entire computer. So I don't even try. I let somebody do it. All right, so I'm going to flip over to the presentation, because we are still quibbling with this guy from Poland, and I get it now. If this guy's from Poland and he wants this Polish guy to be his key suspect, that's fine. But he actually hit me up with a couple things I felt to be a little bit offensive and also a little bit ridiculous. So, you know what, Harriette, actually, when your Solve last week talked about CIA, yes, ugly DMV Doris, see me leave West Lake Herman Road, are you saying DMV Doris because you believed she worked at DMV?
According to what I got, she was briefly working for the DMV in the Fairfield something area, just only briefly. So that's why he's taunting her. And they must have saw her at the DMV.
I wonder, and of course we have the series of Fairfield letters that came out from the Zodiac.
Yeah, hand. It has something to do with somebody in Fairfield. Boy, I got some more coming up too. Okay.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that because I did not discuss that last week. So anyways, Liberton6621, YouTuber, says he totally disagrees that Gaikowski is not the suspect. He says, I'm waiting for your new material because I think you really manipulating your audience. How
empty ultra of you, Nanette. Mind control woman.
Mind control.
LSD. Yeah, I've got these secret words that are triggering everybody to believe me.
Yeah.
Well, I told him the material doesn't become new, so waiting isn't probative. I'm simply giving the information on my suspect, which has a match to the handwriting and all the capabilities needed to be the likes of the Zodiac Killer and so much more. This is in no way manipulating the audience. Gaikowski neither has the skill set or the makings to be the Zodiac Killer or otherwise. I have not seen one piece of credible evidence that shows he has any of the training or background that makes for a serial killer. You know, people want to talk about his height, his size. He's a journalist. He lied about where he was when he wrote a story. He plagiarized somebody else's article. All these things they claim was his way of covering up the fact that he was truly back here in the United States killing somebody instead of over in Europe as his passport dictates. So this guy goes on to say, first, I have to say sorry about my poor English. Stop apologizing for your English if you're Polish, okay? I'm a journalist from Poland, he says. Well, now we know why you're trying to distract everybody with the nonsense about Gaikowski. You're not doing your investigative work, sir. He says, I do my private research for Z crimes about a couple of years, and I have a few answers for you. So he's been doing it for a couple years. I've been doing it for almost 17. How long have you been doing this, Harriette?
It actually starts out when I was 10 or 11 when I saw the Zodiac, but definitely by 1995. So yeah, we're talking about closing in on 30 years.
Right. And then Nolan, you're just a history buff from the get. So I'm going to say you've known about a lot of this stuff all your life.
Yes, I'm an avid reader.
So between the two of us, we likely have somewhere near 70, 80 years of experience with this crap in combination, working together to kind of sort out the truth. So I loved it that he said he's been doing it for a couple years and he's got answers for me. He says, you know why in a decoded cipher is Geik, not Geik? And he spells it the two ways. Obviously, the one that is premised in the cipher is Gyke, and Geik actually would have been Gaik. There was no reason to change that. There was no reason to go by Gyke when Gaik actually is suffice for Geik. It's self-explanatory. When you cut somebody's name in half for a nickname, you use that portion of their name, right?
Yes, that's the ultimate in force fitting, something I definitely try to avoid. This is somebody trying to force fit something, a square peg into a round hole. It just doesn't work.
Right. Yeah. He said because Gaikowski is a Polish surname, and up for this nickname Geik, you have word cause, and if you take those KE, you also have Y in upright. So you have this Gaikaus he, and you've got the phonetic version of his surname in Polish language is Gajkowski. So he's now changed the spelling of it one more time to Gaj. Gajkowski. I'm at a loss that they've twisted this name so many times because what they found was Gyke. Either way, you guys have fun with twisting names. He says, I thought was more important. He says, we absolutely don't know what he was doing from 61, but he worked for the newspapers in the San Francisco area from 61 and then 62 to 71. First in Martinez, where he probably met Darlene. He says probably, not he did, but probably met Darlene. So there's no evidence there that they knew each other. Then he followed her to Albany and go back to San Francisco after Darlene, back maybe 1 week after her return. He said first time that he told that he was gay was in 70-71 in a Good Times article. He says, please do your research. Greetings from Poland. All right.
The other way around, dude. Do your own research.
I said, please do not tell someone to do their research. You have no idea what I've researched, and I already know all those things about Geik, and I spelt it correctly. You think he only turned gay in 70-71 when he came out? Laugh my ass off. That's hilarious. He was likely gay his entire life. Of the gay serial killers that I'm aware of, they kill same sex, not opposite sex, and typically speaking, it's because they don't want somebody to know they're gay. So they're having interrelations with these gay men. I haven't seen a lesbian serial killer, but in the gay serial killing realm, we have, the clown guy? I'm going to lose his name. He dressed as a clown and he was taking all these boys. He stashed them under his house.
Wow.
Basically he was gay, but he didn't want anybody to know he was gay. So he was making dates and having sex with these boys and men and then killing them because he didn't want it to get out that he was gay. Oh, why can't I think of his name? It'll come to me. Anyways.
Crazy.
It's not
John Wayne Gacy. Yeah, okay. See, I've been doing too much of this stuff. Okay.
Yeah, well, John Wayne Gacy came across as a straight heterosexual male who was in fact actually likely gay and didn't want anybody to know it. So he was killing all of the men he was actually bringing home and sleeping with. And then he'd stash them underneath the house in the crawl space beneath it. So they came in and found all kinds of bodies. What's that?
That must have stunk. I would think.
He had a lot of lie. I watched the
Okay.
documentary. He had a lot of lie down there. I said it's not the first name of a suspect that people have tried to twist.
He put lie on his lays.
What's that?
He put lie on his lays.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna let that one be that my head's still a little cloudy from this cold, but I got it. I said it is not the first name of a suspect that people have tried to twist in some way into the cipher. It is literally the most ridiculous reason to call someone a serial killer without any other behaviors that back that up. It is so easy for you Geik fans, and I spelt it incorrectly in that case, to negate that the handwriting doesn't match and that he does not look anything like the original composite, and that the psychological assessment of the Zodiac Killer is that he hates women. Gay men love women, not sexually. I'm sorry. P.S. I have researched these cases, false suspects, and sorted through the BS of disinformation for 15 years. You just got started, so please catch up. I hope not. No losing. So I started to compile some pictures of Gaikowski, and we can see a couple of them that Tom Voigt, and over here is this Gaikowski? Nah, that's Tom Voigt.
Yeah.
But what's his face doing in a conglomeration of Gaikowski pictures?
I don't know if you guys can hear me, but
I can hear you. Can you hear us?
So here's
an even better one. I think she might be breaking up and breaking out. I don't know.
She looks frozen.
Anyways, I know. She's going to have to figure it out. I have to keep on going. Gaikowski travels as a journalist. Okay. Gaikowski travels as a journalist for 1 month, but we know that visas and passports get extended all the time. Even if he came home by December 1st, 1968, do they seriously want us to believe that he traveled to other countries and came home to start a killing spree? I mean, that's what this guy is wanting us to believe, that he's out there acting as a journalist and then turning around and being a serial killer. So this is his request for a passport, and he applies for the passport on October 13th, 1968, with a departure date of November 1st, 1968 for the following countries: United Kingdom, and Belfast, Ireland happens to be one of the places he writes his article out of that they have claimed he's plagiarized. He's going to go to France and he's going to go to Spain. The article that they're stating that he plagiarized was written on January 31st of 1969, which obviously far extends the 1 month period he was due to be out of the country. But again, passports and visas are all extendable once you get there, especially if you're working. Mm-hmm. So basically, their claim that he plagiarized this particular article and wrote it to make it appear as though he was in Belfast on January 31st would have given him an alibi of being out of the country this entire time, writing articles in regards to things that were going on in other countries. Either way, this picture is actually rather shocking because I'm going to show you a lineup of what I could find to be Gaikowski's pictures over the last several decades of his life. So over here in the left-hand corner, we have what appears to be either a high school graduation. It's probably 12th grade graduation picture, I would guess. Very, very young Gaikowski. They actually juxtapose that to the actual composite of the Zodiac Killer, but they're completely missing all of the other elements, which is the turkey neck down here, the wrinkles on the forehead. They had to get rid of all that. So if anybody's manipulating anything, Mr. Libertine, it's the images that are being put on the internet to try and persuade the public that Gaikowski is the Zodiac Killer. He's just not. But we get over into college era here. We can see, and this is where I maintain he was gay long before he came out in 71. We see this is more likely one of his military pictures, 55, 56. And then we see this picture oftentimes juxtaposed to the actual composite, and we can see it looks absolutely 100% nothing like the composite. In fact,
one guy's 40-ish. That's Jack. And the other one is what? I mean, come on.
At this particular time, he'd have been in 1965, he would have been 29 years old. So I'm highly doubting. This does not look like a 29-year-old Gaikowski to me. We hop over here to his passport picture in 1968. Look at the differences between the two.
Yes.
One is a hell of a lot younger looking than the other picture. And this one actually predates it because this one's in 1965. This one's 1968. We see a very, very square jawline. Very, very square. And he maintains and has that square jawline all the way. Look at his 1999 photo. Too. What's that? Say that again.
He's got a long chin. The second to the right, his chin is long.
Whose? This one? That's just the way he smile. That's just the way he's smiling.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And we can see there is no squareness of the jawline in the composite whatsoever.
Right.
Very thin, very large chin. I think that might be why they're throwing this one up, but I think that this one is disinformation. I don't necessarily believe. Well, I'm not even sure it's Gaikowski to begin with because it doesn't even indicate his name here. It just says Contra Costa County, California, County Jail, 10-9-65. But when I look at these two pictures back to back, they look to me within 3 years to be two totally different people.
Yeah.
Don't let the glasses fool you because obviously that can cover some things up. But as far as like, look at how far back the hairline is right here on this particular side. We don't see that over here. We see more of a squared off line. So I don't know. I just started looking at these pictures and thought something is off here. Something is not right. Either way, as I go through it, not one of these pictures look like the composite that has been given of the Zodiac Killer. No. And the fact that he's Polish and not of Welsh descent, which is what the officer described, is likely more true what the officer is saying than what Libertine is saying. Anyways, then I just pulled up both of them. So this one being from 1968, when he applied for that, is the closest picture in time frame to the 1 year later in the Paul Stein murder that the officer witnessed. And once again, we can see this very heavy square jawline, and that is not consistent with what we're seeing in the Zodiac composite. All right, that brings us back to the I-45 murders. Now, you had said, Harriette, that you didn't believe Jack was responsible for the I-45 murders.
Can you hear us, Harriette?
I'm sorry, what was...
I said, you believe that Jack was not responsible for the I-45 murder?
No, he didn't. From what I got, it was shocking, one right after the other. In fact, it's known, but you have to dig deep, that Robert Abel confessed to killing Colette Wilson, tried to get help, but the Tarrant County DA, last name Coffey, quit the next morning. He said, in a matter of words, hell no, I'm not going to prosecute somebody who works for NASA with Cold War secrets in their head. So he did try to confess, Robert Abel. And
wow.
It is Robert Abel.
And Abel was a NASA employee?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it says in the 2005, but here's what it says in the 2005 letter that I know was written by the Zodiac. It stated that NASA
again. Come on.
NASA devil sought Abel. Basically, he's stating that he knows that Abel works for NASA, that he's not the devil sought by the League City Police. And he states in that same letter that there were more than one persons other than himself who were committing these crimes, like the murder of Laura Miller, which is Tim Miller of Texas Equisearch's daughter. He indicated that there was someone else that was killing Hispanics and Chinese, and that there were other people during the 80s series. The thing that I have is that I was able to actually locate pictures of Jack in the area in Texas on nearly every single murder that had occurred that I have in this presentation. And it was something that I was able to show Dennis. We mapped it out. I said, here's the picture during this time frame. Jack is in Texas when this happens. Now, these pictures went missing when Tim Miller and Steph Watts, I believe was his photographer, had come to discuss the case with Dennis and I, and spent a few days going through Jack's stuff and looking through the evidence. And I was able to show them how every single one of these pictures were consistent with a date and time frame that somebody was murdered in Texas and Jack was there. Well, all of a sudden, in the middle of a big fight, with everybody because they had told me that Dennis offered to sell the driver's licenses from the victims to them. I lost my stuff. I thought we weren't in this to sell anything. We were in this to get the truth out. So I got really upset, and in an argument with Dennis, in the middle of that argument, after we came back inside, all of a sudden we could never find those pictures again.
You think they stole them?
Somebody did. Something happened. Something went somewhere. Dennis was on board with the fact that Jack was probably part of some of the murders that were going on in Texas. So I don't see him getting rid of them on purpose, but we could never find them again. Not even after Dennis and I made up after that whole experience could we ever find those pictures again. So that brings us to the first I-45 murder, and this is where it begins on June 17th of 1971 with Colette Anise Wilson on Highway 6 and County Road 99. She was found at Addicks Reservoir. She was found nude, a gunshot to the head. It was a waterway dump site, as we know was something that the Zodiac did, and it looks or would appear that Jack is on his way home from D.C. because when we looked at the last crime, it was actually in the DC area as the DC Freeway Phantom. So this would be a natural progression back and forth to DC while he committed this. And everybody needs to keep in mind that the DC Freeway Phantom was, again, about a 10, 11-month spree where the killer popped up and then fell off the face of the earth as quick as he popped up, which is exactly what happened in the Zodiac case. It was approximately 11 months long. And then we have him disappearing, obviously, into the abyss if you're going to choose not to believe all the communications he sent where he says he's still actively killing. So a little bit of a background on this, we can see that Seguin, Texas was originally way back in the day where I thought Jack had actually been, but I also found out he had residences over in the Houston area. So not as far away as we thought. Colette 13 disappeared from the Alvin bus stop in Galveston on Texas on June 17, 1971. Her body was later found near Addicks Reservoir. She had been shot in the head. 4 months later, the body of 19-year-old Gloria Gonzalez was found near the reservoir, just 35 yards from where Colette had been located. Gloria had also been shot. Colette and Gloria's murders are thought to be related to the disappearances and murders of 26 other girls and women from the Galveston area since 1971. Now, I know that I have pictures of Jack during this from 71 on. I want to say 71 through the 80s, actually into the 90s. It says, actually, she was dropped off by our band director, Charlie Mays, at the corner of Highway 6 and our County Road 95 to walk home and was abducted from there. There is no bus stop there. It was just a long gravel county road. The county is Brazoria and the town is Alvin. Galveston is a very long ways from Alvin. Her body was discovered on November 26, 1971. So there's a little bit of information there, but if we cross-reference the fact that both Colette and Gloria, who has obviously with the last name Gonzalez is of Hispanic descent, this Gloria Gonzalez we would rule out based on the letter because he stated he did not kill anybody who was Hispanic or Chinese. That brings us back to California by June 19th, 1971. I'm saying all of this is doable. We know that Jack is an avid traveler. He travels fast because he's usually doing methamphetamines. So he is driving straight through on whatever he's doing, and he can make it to some amazing places in a limited amount of time. Either way, June 19th, 1971, Susan Marie Lynch hitchhiking from Santa Cruz to home in Nevada City. So this reminds me Jack coming back home, right? So he's on his way out. We have the Texas murders and back into California, passing back through the Santa Cruz or San Jose area on his way back to the Sacramento area. Either way, it says she lives near Placerville area. It is on the murder map for Betts. It's possible Zodiac heads back to DC at some point, but Susan Marie Lynch, 22, was discovered murdered on July 31st, 1971, found buried alive in sand by bottle hunters near East Levee Road, 1/2 mile north of Del Paso Road and 0.6 miles southwest of the dump site of Carol Beth Hilburn. So now we have another body in the same area or in a general area being dumped. Carol, 22, was last seen at Lloyd Hickey's 40 Grand Club at 1819 Del Paso Boulevard in Sacramento and found later that day on Saturday, November 14th, 1970. Wow, that just jumped back a year. That seems a little wrong. That should have said November 4th, 1971. Battered and naked only 30 feet south of West Ascot Avenue and West 4th Street near Rio Linda. Jack does eventually live in Rio Linda as well. It says...
So is that Lloyd Hickey's place? Is that still around with a different name?
I have no idea.
Paso?
This is, I would have to look it up.
There's a huge club on Del Paso. My brother gives dance lessons there.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't actually look it up because I always take for granted that most of these businesses are out by the time I'm, talking about this some 20, 40 years later.
Lloyd Hickey died, and he was a local country music legend with different clubs, and he had hosted a jamboree on television on Sundays too.
Huh.
And it was a really big club.
Well, that takes me back to the Black Dahlia stuff where Spangler had gone missing from the club that was hosting the most beautiful girls around the world on stage, 60 beautiful girls. And literally they had indicated that the postcard, one of the postcards that was written in the Black Dahlia case was actually purchased at that club. So we may have another club and high influential individual relation.
Yeah.
Here.
OSS, CIA. I'm noticing by bottle hunters, there's quite a few of these cases, especially the ones I've done. People were, unnamed individuals were looking for bottles and found a number of the alleged victims. And I'm finding out so many of them weren't killed by Jack, but his crew knew everything about them. And
right.
It just, it's amazing. So he's linked.
Let me finish off this slide real quick. We did find another individual who was found in Fairfax, California, estimated age range 35 to 45 years. Let's see. He was 6'7", estimated weight 180 pounds, estimated circumstances of recovery. Subject was found hanging from a tree. Condition of remains were recognizable. Face hair color was brown. Head hair description, shoulder length, brown hair, body hair description, dark brown chest hair, facial hair description, full beard. Accessories were a canteen near the body, clothing, a long white cotton robe, gown style that was ankle length, and on the body footwear, white rubber Japanese sandals on the body. This one, I believe, was given to me by moonlight, so it's an unidentified person, but happened to be found hanging by rope, which we know was one of the Zodiac's MOs. He claimed it in the Halloween card. And that kind of brings us back to that's going to bring us back to the DC area and the Albany area, which we know the Zodiac has written a letter in regards to and a cipher stating he was going to kill somebody there. So I've included these murders. June 29th of 1971, Gloria South, on Morris and Lark Street near Albany Medical Center and Albany Veterans Hospital. The suspect thought to be known to the police. The victim was shot behind her left ear. And on August 1st, 1973, there's a letter that takes claim for this murder. I'll have to go back and verify that, but I believe that's what that letter was in regards to. On July 1st, 1971, Brenda Jones of I-45. So now we see again, he's made it all the way to one end, killed on his way back. And only a couple days between the two of these, this is what makes it possible, is that we have this individual who is gone missing and killed on June 29th. And by July 1st, we're seeing another I-45 murder with Brenda Jones and I-45 going to Galveston General Hospital. So again, we have this hospital connection. She was 14 years old. Her slip was put in her mouth. She was shot in the head, and she was found in Galveston Bay, 500 yards from Pelican Bridge and close to Seawolf Parkway. Again, a waterway dump. The body of the first known victim, 14-year-old Brenda Jones, was found not far from the fields, which is the killing fields in League City, on July 2nd, 1971. She disappeared while walking to visit an aunt in Galveston. Over the next 6 years, the remains of 11 more victims were found in the area. Another spat of murders took place in the 1980s and 1990s. So now we can clearly see over here in the Tim Miller letter that says, I am not the only one killing girls, Tim. No Mexican, no yellow, I'm going to guess says Chinese, no something ain't killed by me. The very first kills in the 80s series was some other guy too.
I have done
I am the
these.
one. What's that?
Okay, here we go.
I can hear you. Okay. Well, anyways, again. we do have him saying, it says, understanding who is at fault is key. It's her behind this monster in me that makes me kill other Caucasian girls with brown hair, second in the 80s series or the League City Fields. So he's definitely coming about.
Brenda K. Jones was filmed. There's two Brenda K. Jones, though. One, the black, the Negro, light skin. That's one on the list. She was in Galveston Bay.
You are breaking up. You're breaking up really bad. So what you're saying is there's two Brenda Jones that were killed. One was an African-American and one was Caucasian. I can only tell you that based on this letter, we know that when he says he's done something, we can take for granted that he did. And where he did it at is probably a little more subject to whether or not he lied to us.
He didn't kill any of these girls. We even covered. He didn't kill any of them.
I haven't covered it, and I'm listening to the letters of the Zodiac.
Yeah, we did in the 9/11 special. He had the whole list of who he killed and who he didn't.
Okay, I'm going based off what the letters say, and what your solve is not necessarily what I go by. I go by the communications from the killer, and so once we get to that point and we make it down that road to be able to prove that up, I can only say that right now he is indicating that he is somebody who is part of these killings. We have Jack in the area the entire time at every single one of these killings. So there is a connection there. And whether or not he's the actual killer or not is negatable, because like we said, there's a possibility that Jack is just the author. He's just the writer about the happenings, not the actual killer. I've said this a million times, right? You know, but I'm just saying he's taking credit for it in this particular letter in 2005. And when did Abel die?
Robert Abel. Jack says he killed him in 2005.
And Jack was in Texas in 2005.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, he was dying in Texas.
I'm like, wait a minute. What did you just say? Yeah, Jack was in Texas in 2005 when we were able to establish that with Tim Miller. Dennis Kaufman had actually gone back to Texas and visited Jack's aunt with Tim Miller in tow, and they were able to determine that Jack was in fact in Texas in September of 2005. So do we know what month Abel died?
I believe it's September. Hold on. It's July. I think it's July in 2005. I got it here. I got to look it up, but I don't want to read it right now.
Yeah,
but
he
was there. He was definitely there.
All right, we'll come back to that because I want to get into this letter with you. It looks like the Zodiac Killer did not go silent as I had thought after the Sierra card. I think he begins a new spree and starts to connect them through future communications. And this is where I get the idea, not only from the handwriting in the DC Freeway Phantom case, but the connectivity of this particular letter we're about to talk about. Now, it says this wasn't the only communication to refer to the murder of Kathy Bialik. Do you believe that Jack killed or Zodiac killed Kathy Bialik?
Which one is the name? Kathy
Bialik, Bilek.
Oh my God. No, I don't think I got that one yet. So I don't believe it, but I need to work on it.
I'm going to cover that in here. It's actually her and another individual that was killed in the San Jose area near Monticello in the woods, but they actually convicted, I believe, somebody else of these murders. But these people are trying to connect the Zodiac to these murders through this communication. I'm going to show you a new theory and how to look at this communication in a different way, placing it in the time frame. So sometime in 1971, likely in early May and before the mailing of the Monticello card, another Zodiac course. I want to find out what the Monticello card is. Do you have that, Harriette?
No. Yes,
Nobody's
I do. But it's somewhere in my phone. Somewhere.
Okay.
So I've seen it. But yes, I've seen it. Okay.
Okay. I would like to see it. And another Zodiac correspondence in cipher was received by the San Francisco Chronicle, postmarked Fairfield, California, running in tandem with what you're saying about the last solve and Doris being in Fairfield and working for DMV. I do it because I've done it 21 times. I can't stop because each that I kill makes it worse, and I must kill more. Man is the most prized game. I'll never give my name because you don't understand. Now, you guys just heard me use the word understand in the Tim Miller letter. Understand is going to be a huge key factor in a word that connects one communication to the next. Next time, I will send a patch of human skin if there is some left over. The 148 character cipher decoded to, this is the Zodiac speaking. Why can't you stop me? I can't stop killing. Stop listening to the phonies. If this is not on the front page in a week, I will skin 3 little kids and make a suit from the skin. Wow, just completely. So the wording in the letter, I'll do it because I've done it 21 times, is consistent with a mailing date sometime after the March 13th, 1971 Los Angeles correspondence from Zodiac claiming 17 plus victims. Using this person's website, using a simple calculation, we can estimate how often the Zodiac claimed a victim. From December 20th to 1968 to July 26, 1970, the Zodiac Killer claimed 13 victims over 584 days. This is 1 victim every 44.9 days. Therefore, the victim, 13 to 21, another 8 victims were claimed. Add 359 days to July 26, 1970, and we arrive at July 20th, 1971, approximately 4 months after the Los Angeles letter. This letter and cipher appears at first glance a dubious Zodiac communication, but as zodiologist.com pointed out, how difficult would it be for a hoaxer to mimic the ciphers or crosshairs of the Zodiac? The fact the author failed to do this should be pause for thought. There is also something about this letter that indicates the author had written another Zodiac communication, or the author was the actual Bay Area murderer. The other communication, also mailed to San Francisco Chronicle on July 13th, 1971, mirrored the 148 character cipher and letter in one crucial way: the victim total. The last 2 widely accepted Zodiac communications were March 13th, 1971, Los Angeles letter claiming 17 plus victims, and the January 29th, 1974 Exorcist letter claiming 37 victims. The author of the above correspondence had 19 victims victim totals to choose from, 18 to 36, yet he chose the claiming of 37 victims. Oh, I just missed that somewhere. Anyways, yet he chose the total of 21, exactly the same as the total mentioned in the July 13th, 1971 Monticello card, which featured in the San Francisco Police Department DNA report under suspected Zodiac correspondence. Did the author of the above correspondence just get lucky and by randomly choosing 21 victims and thereby mirroring the Monticello card, or was he the author of both? I say he was the author of both. So this is guessed to be mailed somewhere between May and July of 1971. This is the letter we just read about. I'd done it 21 times.
And I
the
cracked
cipher
that
letter
cipher.
sent from Fairfield. Right. Now, I want to point out to everybody that he's talking about skinning people. You guys, I have literally laid out the 4-page recipe of
he knew how to skin
skinning and
deer.
hiding and skinning. And
that's a hint.
My gosh.
It's one of
It's
the
a
many
hint.
hints that this is Jack.
Where's that for Gaikowski? How many people or how many animals has Gaikowski skinned or killed?
Yeah. He skinned some Polish bears somewhere in Russia.
I bet you that's going to come out as a news article next.
Yeah.
So the 21 times letter and the patch of human skin is just right up Jack's alley. We also saw things like the doodles of the word over as he doodles and drags the pen down. We saw this in the annihilating letter, where I believe it was removed by Gray Smith.
Dripping pen.
The dripping pen.
This is the dripping pen. Drip, drip, drip.
The bleeding knife letters. The gall and sharp letter. Like it is definitely the Zodiac all day long. So doodles, drippings, drawings, and scrawlings, we know, are something that he likes to do. The word understand, we talked about, was used in the Dear Draft Board letters and in the Tim Miller and in a few other letters. The more reference has been used since the lipstick killings on, and the next theme has been used also since day one. So that brings us to your solve. Why did I have that one now? Okay, that brings us to your solve, which...
That's just showing the work. It was with no power that time. So... there it is. All right. Cipher.
Okay, so your cipher came out to say, if you can read that for us. I have it on the screen if you can see it.
Yeah, it says it came out after I did the cipher. It came out as an anagramming, of course, afterwards. Michael Payne's Mrs. Ruth sold Dallas, the Rambler, to Faraday father. The IE is for thereafter. It's in Latin. I'm murderer. Betty Lou and the Lake Herman Road kids. Let me see it on my phone because you can read it a little bit more better. Well, he's admitting that he's feeling guilty for what happened, that he was to go get these two kids who were in the Rambler, the JFK Rambler, the CIA, Michael and Ruth Payne that moved here.
Wasn't Ruth Payne Lee Harvey Oswald's landlord?
What was that?
And wasn't she Lee Harvey Oswald's landlord?
Yeah, see, so she moved.
And she's the one that got him the job at the school book depository.
Yeah, she moved to Santa Rosa, and that this is saying that she sold the car to the Paynes, the Rambler, and so there's evidence in there. So he's feeling guilty that he's the murderer, that he killed them on Lake Herman Road in the Benicia area.
Interesting. So that's where this is also where in the actual letter itself, you got the CIA, yes, ugly DMV Doris, see me leave with Westlake Herman Road. So he is literally in both of these messages, you're finding something that is referencing Lake Herman Road and the Rambler that they were in, right? All right. Well, and then that brings us to the Monticello card, which I haven't seen, but the Monticello card was mailed on July 13th, 1971, stating near Monticello, shot SHOUGHT victims 21 in the woods, dies April. This is as much as I've gotten on it. And what I want to remind you is that while they are trying to claim that it is the Kathy Bielik murder or the murder of two teenagers in the woods near Monticello in California, I actually believe that, let's start with the fact that in the woods dies April. The DC Freeway Phantom murders, not only were they shot, but they were the murders ensued and began in April of 1971. Look at that connection. In the woods dies April. Let's see. Now this is my take on it. When I'm using the shot is also a very good cross connection, the SHOUGHT to the sought victim 12. So the 2 and the 1 is just transposed, but the sought and shot, the way he spells it, are similar in, again, connecting those correspondences. When I got into looking at the map to see where everything was, this is the happenstances of the murders that are occurring in Albany, New York, and in the Baltimore or the Maryland and Washington, D.C. area. Of course, these are also crossover jurisdiction murders between Maryland and Washington, D.C., and is happening around an Air Force base. Here's the Joint Andrews Air Force Base, and we have all of this stuff that's going on over here. And then lo and behold, I find Monticello. So the letter claiming 21 victims, it is accepted as a possible Zodiac communication. Here, I'd like to address this very mysterious letter that is alluding to 21 victims in the woods dies April. It's cutouts just as the 12 victims sought postcard is. It is words cut and pasted on a picture, just like the Sierra Club pasted on the picture of Torrey Pines. I need to check that one out and see why I had Torrey Pines in there. But my research of near Monticello comes only to one political reference of President Thomas Jefferson's property near the latest murders in Albany, New York, and Maryland, D.C. Albany, New York is 8 hours from Monticello, but Maryland and D.C. murders are minutes away. So near Monticello, as he stated, and it began in April, which these murders in the D.C. Freeway Phantom case start in April. So, and I don't know why this letter's been kept from us, but if you have it, I'd love to see it, Harriette. And so, yeah, Thomas Jefferson's abode is called Monticello in the state of Virginia, where the FBI and Quantico are located.
You got a lot of cult stuff going on there. My God, the guy who founded.
I've only got 1 minute.
Keep going.
I've only got 1 minute left. We're going to be hopping into some additional murders that are occurring over there in that area in July. And again, I think that if Jack doesn't meet Nora until August of 71, there may be a possibility that that more sets the precedence or time frame where we can actually start to place Jack in a particular spot. But during 70 and 71, I literally have no clue where he is established or living. But we are also going to see just in a couple months now that he's in Kansas City, Kansas, which places him on the other side of the United States, where he could viably be doing exactly what I say he's doing.
Yeah,
but that's about all we
doing.
have for today. Anybody have any last minute comments?
No.
I'm saying hello to Megan Walsh. I believe she's watching. I decoded that thing for her and all these new followers. So love everybody.
Everybody have a wonderful weekend. You guys take care, and we'll see you next Friday. Bye for now.
Go Chiefs.
Bye-bye.